All right, Mitch, how we doing?
I am doing fantastic, Garrett. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Today is, whatever today is, March 13th?
Sounds like it.
Okay, so last time we recorded was February 13th, so it's been a minute, but glad to be back in the studio. All right, I have a surprise exercise for you. I intentionally didn't tell you.
Always love your surprise exercises.
So I think we've done one where you have to build a like an all-time Patriots team, right? We've done that one before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I saw this one on TikTok because all my surprise exercises, by the way, come from TikTok. I don't make them up. So kind of like that joke you told me off air.
Yeah.
So the exercise is this. This is not a trick question. What letter does your name start with?
M.
M. Okay, so now you have to build a starting, I guess a starting 7. You don't have to choose like O linemen. So you have to build a starting 7 all time, current or retired players, any team with players whose first name starts with M.
An NFL team?
Mm-hmm.
First name starts with M?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're saying all time. So QB, tight end,
running back, receivers,
and 4 receivers.
But yeah, whatever.
Or an extra running back.
Or you can go 2 running backs, 3 receivers,
or 2
whatever.
QB.
Just you don't have to do O linemen, so you just have to name 7 players.
Okay, so a first name that starts with M. You can't go Mahomes or Montana. That's a last name.
Nope.
Okay.
So your lineup is Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I'm going to keep Stafford over Vic.
Okay. So Matt Stafford, Matt Forte, Mark Andrews, Marvin Harrison Sr., Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Evans, and Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's not bad.
Good team.
That's not bad. Is that a Super Bowl team? I mean, Matt
in their
won.
Prime, yeah.
Yeah, Matt won.
Any of these guys.
Any of those other guys win?
Marvin Harrison, I think he was on the Colts team that won the Super Bowl. Matt Forte never did.
Okay.
He was on a pretty good Bears team that almost made the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Mike Evans has a Super Bowl win with Brady.
That's true. Yeah,
and
that's
Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors were just rookies, so they haven't had a chance yet. Neighbors on the Giants, so he'll never win one.
Good point.
Harrison's on the Cardinals, so he'll never win one.
Good point.
If they could switch teams.
Yeah,
you know? They're not going to win it on their current team.
True. All right.
So we got some Super Bowl experience on that team. We got some young bucks that are top young receivers currely. I feel good about it.
All right. So my first name starts with G, and I don't
prepared ahead of time.
What's that?
So I hope you're prepared ahead of time, or else we're gonna.
Well, I'm not gonna do it for the NFL. I'm gonna do it for the NBA.
Oh, good.
Which I guess you could too if you want to build a starting 5.
That would be even harder.
I mean, honestly, dude, like M's in the NBA, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan.
Oh, wait a minute.
G's, I'd probably go. I for sure want Grant Hill on my team. One of my favorite players all time. That's why I wore the number 33. Grant wore 33, playing for the Magic.
Okay.
I'll go Gilbert Arenas, Gary Payton Sr., Goran Dragic, Grant Hill, Giannis Antetokounmpo in their primes. That's a pretty good lineup. I'm pretty happy with that lineup. So definitely thought about it ahead of time. So
you might be able to take Magic and Mike.
Yeah, if it's just the two of them. Yeah, because I can't
say those 2 words too closely.
Because I can't think of anybody else for you. Anyways, that's fun. Your NFL team turned out pretty good. It's not bad actually.
Yeah, if I thought more, I'd probably make a couple changes. But
now you're gonna think about it all day.
Pretty good. Yeah, probably.
You're gonna think about it all day. You're gonna Google it afterwards and make some changes.
Just look up.
Yeah.
But I'm too prideful for that. I've got NFL Google in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Could name the Super Bowls faster than I named my 6-player or 7-player lineup.
True. All right. Well, hey, we haven't podcasted in exactly a month, and so we have quite a few things to catch up on, and it's going to just help us to reflect on all that God's done in our ministry over the past month, and kind of honestly just document some things for future reference, and hopefully, if anyone's listening, you might glean something from just our reflections on stuff. So. Let's think through. We did this in the office a minute ago, but just to refresh. So I'd like to recap the dating series in students in college. Thought that was good. That's happened since we last met. We had a missions meeting for students and a missions meeting for college. We had a one night for students, which we'll talk about what that is. We had a college retreat for young adults. We met last night, which is spring break for Lake County, the county that we're in, and that was an interesting experiment. We haven't done that since I've been here. Usually we take off on spring break week, but we can talk about what we learned last night. What am I missing? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
I went to a conference. I can share some things from the conference. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about the dating series. If you can think back that far. We just kicked off our Esther series last night. In the month of March, we are working through the book of Esther. And so if you can think back to the dating series, give me your reflections on how you felt preaching it, how you feel it was received, if you would change anything for a future dating series, just kind of what are you thinking about that series?
Yeah, I felt really good about it, and we were able to hit this. I mean, I preached it to middle schoolers and to college students, and so it helped stretch me a little bit. Like if you're doing a dating series to middle schoolers and college students, it's got to be a little bit different, you know. But we just got to hit some like basic, just Christian perspective on dating topics, like what the Bible says about singleness and like where your identity should be when you're pursuing a relationship, and what the purpose of dating is, and like who you should date. And I felt pretty good about it. It was a fun series to teach, and some of the stuff you just know, like it's gonna strike something in one of the listeners, because it's just there's some common things that people deal with in their singleness, and then maybe compromises they've made in relationships. And so I love it just because it's so practical, and like coincidentally or not, there were a lot of breakups in our student ministry and college ministry right before the series started. And so that was good timing.
Yeah, I felt good about it. It stretched me a little bit because I've done like a dating message. I've never done a dating series, to be honest with you. So it stretched me some. I preached it to our high schoolers, which was fun. This was probably the series where I felt we've been split in middle school and high school ministry for this semester. And so we've had 2 series now with split ministries, and I preached the apologetic series in January to middle schoolers, and there's probably a few things I would have tweaked, I guess, if I were preaching it to high schoolers. Maybe, elaborated on something or used bigger words or not defined as many things. There's probably some tweaks I would have made, but the dating series for sure, I felt the benefit of being split because I touched on some things in high school that you didn't. I think I talked about sex a little bit. I took a deeper dive on like gender theology. Like there's some things, like I think in every message I said like, all right, I'm really grateful that it's just high schoolers in the room because I want to talk about this for the next 2 minutes. And then I did it. So I think I felt more so than I did in January. I felt the benefit of being split, middle school, high school. And I think they appreciated that. So, but yeah, we had, if you can catch it all on our YouTube channel, all 3 messages, but we had a message on singleness from 1 Corinthians 7, and then we had a message on marriage from Matthew 19, and then we had a message on, we didn't call it this, but dating prospects, like who's qualified as a candidate, basically. Also didn't put it that way. But basically, like just who can you date from 2 Corinthians 6, and so really helpful messages, I think, for these students. And yeah, the whole time we said, like, we're not stepping on your parents' toes. We're not, doing what your parents are supposed to do, like telling you when you can start dating and what it looks like when you start dating and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's not up to your youth pastor. That's up to your parents. But there are some things that are up to your youth pastor to share with you because God is clear about them in the Bible, and that's singleness, marriage, who you can date, all that kind of stuff. So I thought it was good. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I got very personal. Not like in a weird way, just like shared a lot of my dating story and marriage story and all this stuff. So I think they appreciated that. Showed a lot of pictures. They definitely appreciated that. So it was fun. It was a good series. It was really good. I felt more prepared for it because I basically took like a dating message I had done in the past and broke it up into a dating series. So I felt prepared for it in a way that I don't feel for this Esther series that we're in right now. It's like I had to prep quite a bit for this Esther message last night and probably still could have prepped more, you know what I mean? I've never preached Esther before. And so I felt confident in the dating series just because it's material that I felt I've covered before. So, but it's still expanded on it, elaborated it, tweaked it. So it was good. Felt good about it.
Sounds good.
Let's think here. Man, we had so in our student ministry, we are one church in multiple locations, right now 3 locations. And so we had on February 16th, a combined missions meeting. This summer, we have Missions Week for our students. Middle schoolers are going to New Orleans and partnering with Mission Lab. If you're not familiar with Mission Lab, I recommend them to you. And then our high schoolers are going to the country of Panama and partnering with Go in the Name Missions. Also recommend that organization to you. And so we had one meeting for both trips for all campuses on the 16th, and it was awesome. Like, we had representation, middle school and high school, from all 3 campuses interested in the trips. Now, we'll see if that translates to application from all 3 campuses for both trips, which it should. But I was encouraged by that meeting. I've been here for several years now, and we've had several of those meetings that are just poorly attended and flat, to be honest with you. And so that was the first missions interest meeting that was full and energetic and well represented, and it was really, really good. So I'm going to New Orleans with Pastor Adam from Village Park. You're going to Panama with Pastor Nathan from South. Any thoughts on that meeting?
I just would echo what you said. It was great to see so many students there. And I wasn't in the middle school one. I was hanging in the high school one. But those meetings are so important. And we always encourage people to come. Like, even if you're not totally sure you want to come, like, the first meeting is, we call it an interest meeting, because you want to come if you have any interest and just to gain more information. And I think definitely God can work in people's hearts in ways that maybe they just, like, we even kind of playfully are like, hey, they're providing lunch. Like, if you're just hungry, like, come to this meeting.
I wasn't even being playful. I was serious.
Yeah. Well, like, it's just kind of, I guess that's true. Like, I did the same thing for other missions meetings, but it's just kind of funny. Like, even if your motivation is just to get food, like, come and hear about it, because you could think I'm going to get a free meal and my friends are here, and then you're like, wait a minute, like, this missions thing sounds cool, and wait, our church supports you that much that money isn't really an issue, and you just learn about the specific place that you're going. And so I think in the Panama meeting, it went really well. We had Jess Pike, our missions assistant, spoke a lot about the logistics of applying for it and things like that. And then Pastor Will was there, even though he's not coming on the mission trip, and he had kind of a slideshow and a lot of information about the experience he's had in Panama. And I think it helps people come over roadblocks too, because even to New Orleans, like, if you're going somewhere new, it's kind of intimidating. If you're leaving the country, there might be some concerns there. And so it's really comforting to hear people who have been there be like, hey, like, I would bring my wife there. I feel safe there. Like, sometimes you might feel safer there than you do in downtown Leesburg at night.
100%. Like, 100%. Yeah.
So I think it went really well. And our team just has some good experience, and it really, really puts it in a good light.
With both these places, in the right setting, I've told people, like, honestly, if you're willing to live in Leesburg, like, you're good. You can go to this location we're going in Panama and the way that we're going to New Orleans, because honestly, Leesburg's more dangerous. like I haven't looked at a crime map, but just like anecdotally, like it's you're fine. I
mean, I've heard, I don't want to psych people out about Leesburg, but I've heard per capita, Leesburg's one of the more dangerous places in Florida or in the country or something like that. Like,
I think that's true.
The crime rate per capita. But that also, I haven't looked at all the stats, but I assume that just means there are more people who are doing dumb things. Like, that doesn't just mean your house is going to get robbed. Like, I think there's a lot of people intentionally going into sketchy situations, and then bad things happen.
Well, the thing is, like, I feel safe here.
Right.
And like, if I feel safe here, then I should feel even safer in Panama or New Orleans. It's just the unfamiliarity of it is concerning to parents. But like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I honestly, you've been to Panama now as well. I felt safer in Panama than I do here. Like, like, we did a lot of door-to-door ministry. Well, on the first Panama trip, I guess we didn't do a whole lot of that last year, but like, doing door-to-door ministry in Panama, I was like, this is awesome. I would be nervous about doing this in Leesburg.
Yeah.
Anyways, Leesburg's great, by the way. Love it. Love it so much. But it's interesting to field some of those concerns sometimes. But missions is at the heart of our church. So like our vision is to be a light to our community and a launching pad to the nations. And so as a student ministry, we don't want to be what I've heard called a severed appendage of the body of Christ. So we don't want to go in a different direction from where our church is going at large. We want to we want to be rocket fuel, and we want to be an accelerator to the vision of our church, not a divergence to the vision of our church. And so because missions is at the heart of our church's vision, it's at the heart of our student ministry. So we are never going to have a calendar year that does not include some sort of opportunity for middle schoolers and high schoolers and college kids to go on mission. And so that's really important. Even though, like, even if it's not even if missions is not a central piece of your church's vision or your church's mission, I would encourage you to engage in it, because it's at the heart of God, and it's really, really helpful. When you find a good partner, you can make an actual impact, but it's also just as impactful on the adults and students who go on the mission trip, and they'll come back more fired up for Jesus than they were before. So it's a worthy endeavor for sure. It's not quite chronological, but let's fast forward to the missions meeting you just had for our college ministry, since we're on the topic of missions.
Yeah.
Why don't you chat about that for a minute?
Yeah, so I guess if I really want to talk about it, I should look into exactly when. But I know our college ministry has not had a mission trip in a while. I feel like it's been 10 years. We might have had one more recently. I say we, the ministry might have had one that I was not a part of. But we have amazing partners in Honduras that we are going to do a week-long mission trip there. And we have I overthought some things maybe, but college kids, it can be hard to get them to commit. And so we have a fun mission trip that kind of a small cap on how many students we can bring, but I have a feeling that we might be able to fill that up. But we had our first meeting on Sunday, and we had 4 students show up that were really interested, and at least 2 or 3 who were very interested that just couldn't be there. But we learned about Honduras from actually a guy and his wife live in, I don't know, is Sorrento Lake County? You think I would know?
I don't know.
They live somewhere close enough to where they were, and they are on the board of directors with this ministry, and so they were humble enough to come join us and speak about the ministry and tell some cool stories about what had happened on the mission trips in times past. And so it was really cool having them there. They're good friends of Carrie's parents. They look familiar, but I don't know if I had even met them before. I just got his contact and reached out, and they were more than willing to come speak about the mission. And just my wife, Carrie, was there, and our missions assistant was there, and I was there, and we all shared good stories about missions and about getting support, and gave a lot of encouragement. And I think it went really well. So we've got another meeting in a couple weeks that will be kind of our deadline to, sign up, have a deposit, and like you're either in or you're out at this point. And like I said, there were actually at least 4 people that I know are very interested that weren't there. And so
I think that's a good point. Like our, we are a large church, relatively speaking, but like when we send teams, like we have a team in the Himalayan mountains right now with 7 people on it, or we have a team heading to New York tomorrow with 8 people on it. Last year's Panama trip, we took 9 people, I think. Like we send, quote unquote small teams, and so I like that because I like the intimacy of it. I like the agility of the team. And like, believe it or not, like I've been on mission trips with like 200 people before, and it's fine. Like it has its pros and cons, but
that kind of blows my mind.
I like they were domestic trips, but still, but I like the agility and the intimacy of like smaller teams, and so. I just for listeners' sake, I want this to feel accessible. Like you don't have to plan a trip to Panama and take 36 people. You can go with a team of 5 for your first year or something. Like it's cool. That's impactful. It's powerful. It's gonna build momentum. And it never needs to be a team of 3 dozen. Just take a dozen people every year and take different people. It's powerful. So, we love missions at our church. Our pastor loves missions. I mean, God loves missions, but like our pastor is very passionate about missions, which is one of the many things I admire about him. So, I am too passionate about missions. Let's see. Something else that we did was we had what we call a one night at our church for student ministry. So we are one church in multiple locations, and so we're doing a lot of things right now and putting the word one on the front of it. And so we're trying to do more as one student ministry in multiple locations. And so, for instance, we just had one retreat back in January. I think we talked about that on the podcast quite a bit. We have registration open right now for one camp this summer. And the retreat and the camp are things that we are running ourselves, and it's just our church, but it's middle schoolers and high schoolers from all 3 campuses. And I've been calling the missions stuff, I've been calling it one missions, just because it's 2 missions trips for students from all 3 of our campuses. But we've also had we've got 4 one nights on the calendar for 2025, and we had one of them, and we got another one coming up on April 13th. But on February 23rd, we had a one night at the Village Park campus. So middle schoolers and high schoolers from all 3 of our campuses gathered together, and we just hung out together, honestly. We had food and fellowship and played indoor volleyball and 9 square, and we had a time of large group, youth group games, like just your typical download youth ministry games, and we had a great devotional, and we went back to playing and hanging out, and each campus was well represented, not just like represented because there's one person there, but like well represented with students and parents who stayed the whole time, which I thought was cool, volunteers, staff. So it wasn't a high attendance night for us. I think they could be in the future, but we told our team, like, these nights are not meant to be high attendance nights at first, if ever. Like, honestly, I'd be upset if like it was a high attendance night and only 2 campuses were represented. Like, that would that'd be a flop in my mind. Right. Like, I'd rather it be an average attendance night and all 3 campuses be well represented, which is what the one night was. And so I was very pleased with that, because quite simply we accomplished what we set out to do. And so yeah, it was really good. Looking forward to the next one on April 13th. I think those are culture builders, because the other stuff that we're doing with the word one in front of it, one retreat, one camp, one missions, those are all trips that are away and cost money. And so we're looking for some things on the calendar that are local and free to kind of help build the one church culture. And so that's what the one nights are aimed at, is hopefully in some ways a stepping stone to one retreat, one camp, and one missions, but if nothing else, just kind of some local free culture builders for us. And I think gathering one of those accomplished that goal. So you were there. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that on one night.
I just think it was awesome, and it's so cool that we're doing that as we have the last few years built momentum, or really in the last year, I guess, built some good momentum on the student ministries on the other campus and the other campuses, the campusi. And it's really cool to just get all the kids together. And it was not necessarily guinea pig, but I mean, it was an experiment for sure, of like, it was our first time doing a local event with all 3 campuses. And naturally you want to just hang out with the people you know, but the more we do that, the more we're going to keep encouraging, like, hey, go meet somebody new and find out their name, and find somebody who's the same birthday. We played some good activities that got people to talk to somebody other than just everybody that they're familiar with being around. And it was also cool getting just all you, Adam, Will, and I got different chances to a small platform moment to the kids got to know us a little bit. And I think we really set a good, like, tone for like, hey, we're tri-campus and we're trying to do a lot of things together and not be divided.
Yeah, 100%. I think it didn't feel like cliquish to me. Like, I think people did gravitate toward like familiar people. Yeah. But I think also I don't envision us ever forcing like if you're from downtown, you must go hang out with South MVP. Like I think it'll just happen organically because like they're cool people like at every campus, and I think just time, like the more time you spend together, you'd get to know each other and you'll just hang out. I think it'll just happen organically.
Yeah.
And just getting all the people in the same room is probably all the forcing that we're gonna do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just get them there, get them in the same room, and then over time, the culture will grow in a healthy direction, and we'll see some movement there. But yeah, I felt good about it. I was just so many benefits from the gathering, even though it was like quote unquote average attendance. Like it wasn't a high attendance night because it wasn't designed to be. But like so many benefits from the gathering. Like I had so many people that were like, "Wow, I've never been to this campus," and I'm like, "What?" Like, I had one lady, a grandmother of a student from a different campus. Well, we don't have that many campuses. So a grandmother of a student from South Campus, who dropped off her student and walked in the building, and she's like, "I've been going here for I don't remember what she said, 40 or 50 years. Been going to First Baptist." So she was downtown for a long time, and then when we planted South, she and her husband went there, and they've been there ever since. But she's like, "I've been going to this church for 40, 50 years, and I've never been to the Village Park campus." Now, granted, the Village Park campus has only existed for 7 or 8 years, so there's that to it. But like, you've been like one of the key members of this church for decades, and you've never been to the Village Park campus. Like that blew my mind.
Yeah.
And like staff members are like, "This is only my second time here." I'm like, "What?" Like, you work here. Like, it's just, I mean, it's not anybody's fault. It's just like we haven't done a great job of balancing the like local the local flavor and identity of campuses and ministries with some of the one church, multi-site, tri-campus culture and flavor and identity. And so I think we're starting to do that, and just so many benefits, just as simple as like, "I've never been on property here, but welcome to the Village Park campus." It's beautiful. And then
we'll get that. We'll have a one night at South, and downtown and VP people will be like, "I've never been here. Yeah. This is sweet." It's
exactly right. We probably won't have a ton of that at the downtown campus. Like when we host one, there probably won't be a ton of people that are like, "I've never been here before," although there will be some. But definitely,
that'll blow my mind.
Definitely at the other two campuses for sure. But even some like, you got to do some like small correction. Like they walk in, and the Village Park campus is beautiful. Like First Baptist Leesburg downtown has been here technically like 152 years or whatever. But like our downtown sanctuary was built in the 60s. We got some buildings that were built in like 1910, literally.
It's older than my house.
The South Campus was built in 1990. Is that right?
I don't know.
Anyways, it was an autonomous church before they partnered with us, and now they're a campus of ours. So their facilities are 35 years old, I believe. But the Village Park campus, their facilities are like 5 years old, 6 years old, and they're beautiful. And they have the biggest lobby in our network, although the lobby's not huge in my opinion, but it's definitely the biggest. Like the other two campuses, downtown and south, they basically have no lobby. It's like an old school Baptist church where it's all just hallways. Like just get in, get out, don't talk to anybody. But Village Park kind of reflects the new age of church facilities where there's a lot of gathering space for before and after services to talk. And so they have a lobby, and people are like, "Wow, look at this lobby." And they have like a legit cafe in their lobby where you can like buy smoothies and stuff. And I'm driving to this point, which is that like some students would walk in and be like, "Man, can we get a cafe like this at our church?" And we'd be like, "Well, you have one. This is your church." And like kind of sarcastic, but honestly serious. Like, "No, this is your church. Like you have one. I know you don't go to this campus every week, but like this is your church, and you should be proud of it because this church with this facility is reaching people up here in this area." And so just little small culture moments like that that are going to snowball into, big progress in the right direction. So I was very pleased with one night.
And you gained a new, maybe not favorite, but a new game you loved. I forget what it was called. I didn't play it, but some volleyball variation where you just chuck the ball over.
I enjoyed Nukem. Is what it's called. I don't know if Pastor Adam invented it, but I learned it from him that night, and it was fun. I had a lot of fun playing it there. And then the following Wednesday night, we tried to play it downtown, and the downtown kids kind of stunk at it. So we need to practice, I guess, before we play Nukem again. But it was fun at one night. I had a good time. I won't explain the game. But it's just a fun variation of volleyball, is all it was. So yeah, it was good. It was good. All right. I want to hear about the college retreat. I might give you some thoughts from the conference I went to, and then maybe we can talk about last night meeting during spring break and what we learned. But you took a retreat with college students and young adults probably about 2 weeks ago now. Tell us about it.
Man, it was so great. It was the second annual. You talk a lot about first annual, but it was at Word of Life. It's called Pursuit, and I think for a while they've done Pursuit camps in like the spring, or I guess January and February, because it's like it is a Word of Life. This campus is a college campus, but they have a lot of summer camps there, and the Pursuit is these weekend retreats, and the last weekend now of Pursuit, they do a college retreat, a college, like young adults weekend, and it's actually in the age range of 18 to 28. It's not like our college ministry we promote, it's like 18 to 25. But this is for students between the ages of 18 and 28. And we took some students last year, and numbers aren't everything, but they're something. You know, we took more students this year than we did last year, which is good momentum.
Yes.
And we've grown the ministry numerically in the last year as well, so that just kind of tracks. And it's such a good time. And it's a weekend, and so, you know, we're used to summer camps where it's at least like a Monday evening to a Friday morning or something, but this is a Friday evening to a Sunday early afternoon. You get home about 48 hours after you left, and so it's short, and it really just leaves you wanting more. But there's so much packed into the weekend. They always provide great speakers there. They have great worship, and they set the weekend up to where there's some free time, and they have an amazing campus to play games and do go-karting and tubing and basketball and volleyball and fat bikes. But what I really like is on Saturday, they always set it, well, I say always, this was their second time they've done the young adult weekend, but we've been there every time. On Saturday, they set up these different sessions. I think basically one is right before lunch and one is right after. And there's usually 6 to 8 options of a different topic that is being spoken on about. I mean, Carrie and I went to one that's about something about your like it was kind of a Dave Ramsey-ish speech, but it's like how to handle your finances well. There were some about wisdom from Proverbs. There's some about prayer, and so different spiritual topics, and you can just basically choose which session you want to go to. And they speak for 30 minutes or so, and then there's like a Q&A afterwards. And so a lot of our kids, one of their favorite parts of the weekend, if not the favorite part, was one of the sessions they went to, the one about the wisdom in Proverbs. Nice. And so, yeah, it's just, we love Word of Life. We've done summer camp there before, and we've done Pursuit Young Adult Weekend twice in a row now, and it's just, can't say enough about it. They do a really great job there, and those weekends are so fun. I'm already excited for doing Pursuit again next year. Having a three-peat.
Oh, we got to save the date on the website.
I was talking about it yesterday. I was like, registration's open already.
Is it?
I think so. There's like an early bird registration going on right now.
Oh, yeah. Registration's open like through Word of Life. I don't think we've posted our registration.
Oh, yeah. That's very true.
But you're not wrong. Yeah, we could, as a church, we could go ahead and secure our spots for next year, which we might. Well, they're not going to fill up. Anyways.
If it's cheaper for us to reserve it.
If it's a discount. I see what you're saying.
$30 off or something like that.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. All right, we'll look into it. Good.
That's a good thought.
On-air meeting.
Yeah.
We always say, a change of place plus a change of pace equals a change of heart, and that applies to that really applies to all ages and all trips. Like I think, a mission trip is an example of that, where you're changing your location, you're changing your rhythms, and it's going to change your heart. Camp and retreat for middle schoolers and high schoolers is like that, but retreat for college kids and young adults is like that as well, where you get away, different location, you change your rhythms, and it postures your heart to be changed by the Lord. And so I think, we experienced some of that at the retreat. I wasn't there, so when I say we experienced some of that, I think our church and our ministry experienced some of that through your leadership. So it was good. It was really good. And I think that the timing of that trip and the partner and the location, I think it's perfect for what we're looking to do. So I'm really happy with that partnership. So, let's think.
Let's hear about your conference, man.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna go with you and then didn't.
Well,
not quite like I bailed on you last minute. We talked about it, and I decided not to go.
So, so it's the Church for the Rest of Us conference is what it's called. There's a whole Church for the Rest of Us brand, Church for the Rest of Us podcast. You could look that up, whatever. So it's Family Church in West Palm Beach, First Baptist West Palm Beach. That may sound familiar because that's where I worked for 8 years before coming here. So
8 years, wow.
I helped run this conference quite a few times. When I say helped run it, I just helped lead a few breakouts or whatever. I didn't do anything crazy, but so I wanted to, they're one church in 18 locations, so they're really on the cutting edge of multi-site Southern Baptist church life in Florida. Like we look up to them a lot. And so I wanted to take our team down there, and we don't have a huge team. There's 5 of us, whatever, but the majority of our team couldn't go. And so I was like, well, not to say I know everything, because everything's always changing. So like, I don't want to pretend like I know everything they're going to present at the conference, but like, I'm pretty familiar with Family Church. So I was like, I'm not just going to go by myself. And so it was like 2 days before where I was like recapping all that with Hannah, my wife. And she's like, well, I would go and take the kids. And I was like, all right. I would go and see my friends. So we went, and we just like went on our own expense and got an Airbnb and took the kids to the park and the beach, and I went to the conference by myself, and had a lot more fun than I was expecting. So like, I just got to see so many people, like just everybody I would have expected to see, and then some. It was really, really good. Sat in a lot of sessions. I didn't go to any student ministry sessions. And I love student ministry.
Interesting choice.
Well, I used to lead the student ministry sessions, which again, there's probably some things that have evolved, and like, there's probably still some things I could have learned. You can learn something from anyone. You can learn something every time someone speaks. Like there's always that. But I wanted to go to some sessions that like I did never get a chance to attend because I was always like running student ministry sessions. So that was fun. I went to like a church merger session. I went to a staff culture session. I went to a multi-site org chart session. Like it was fun. Landed in a lot of sessions with Pastor Cliff, just coincidentally. Huh. Like we didn't hang out together much. So Pastor Cliff, our lead pastor, and I were the only two at the conference from our church. But we didn't hang out much. We just kind of like ran into each other often because we're like, oh, we're going to the same session. So that was cool. But it was really good. I think I'm trying to think of like something I learned, like something specific that I learned. I think, let's think, like from a session per se. I think in the church merger session, they told a lot of stories, which I've heard some of those stories before, but I could listen to them all day. Like it's a lot of like the former senior pastors of joining churches that were leading those sessions. And so, I love those stories, but, they talked about how like you often merge because the joining church is dying and they need the lead church to partner together and whatever. But the strongest partnerships are really with two healthy churches. And so those are more rare mergers when it's two healthy churches, but those are the best, most successful, sustainable partnerships, which is cool. So basically like, don't just consider merging with another church because you're dying. Like there are reasons to consider it as a healthy church too. There's another, let's think. I don't remember if it was in the culture session or the org chart session or whatever, but they talked about starting symbols, like when you start a new campus or a new church plant, what to start with. And they said all you need is worship, preaching, kids ministry, so preschool and kids, and first impressions. It's like hospitality, greeting, whatever. You don't have to have student ministry, college ministry, adult groups, men's ministry, women's ministry, just all, you name it. Like when you're starting a campus, you just need preschool kids, first impressions, worship and preaching. Like that's how you start. And then you add the stuff onto it as the campus evolves. And so that was helpful. Cause the whole start simple, the concept makes sense, but like to really be specific about what start simple means was helpful. Let's think. They talk about in the staff culture session about defining your culture. So like you kind of feel your culture. Like your culture is what you is what you celebrate and what you tolerate. That was a saying I took away from that. So like, your culture is what you both celebrate and what you tolerate. So, what you tell people to do, and then what you permit them and allow them to do, basically. But like, you have to define your culture. So like, don't just feel it, but like, say it. So like, these are the 7 things that I want to be part of our culture. And then once you say it, once you define it, write it down, it's not a cultural value if you don't hold people accountable to it. So like, hey, this is one of our 7 cultural values. You're not doing it. Actually, you're doing the opposite of it. And so you need to get in line, and also be willing to let people do that to you. Like, and so I thought that was cool. Like, culture is what you celebrate and what you tolerate, but don't just feel it, say it, define it, write it down. And when you do, go a step further and hold people accountable to it. Like, write it down and then point out to them when they're not doing it. And so basically the whole point was like, it's not a true value if you don't hold someone accountable to it. So I thought that was good. But anyway, so I did learn some things at the conference. But I also just had a fun time. We took our kids to the beach and saw a lot of old friends and friends that have kids of their own now, and ate. Man, there's so many good restaurants down there. So like, we ate at a lot of good restaurants. Like, we'll take out. We took it all home to the Airbnb. Cause
some Joe Bistro.
Actually, we did not. No, Tropical Smokehouse, one of my favorites. Went there. Don Ramon's. Yeah, man, it was a good time.
Heck yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, if you're listening, I would recommend to you Church for the Rest of Us. So listen to that podcast show, consider the conference next year. I highly recommend all that stuff. So really, really good. Let's close with this. Last night was Lake County spring break. So we're in Lake County. And last night was spring break for Lake County, and it was also spring break for our school, First Academy. But it's not spring break for everybody. So it was not spring break for Sumter County. It was not spring break for Marion County, some nearby counties where we have some students who go to school there. It was not spring break for the Villages Charter School, which we have a lot of students who go there. It was not spring break for homeschoolers because they do whatever they want. And so I've been here. This is my 3rd spring break here. And the last 2 years, we have not met in student ministry on spring break week. And this year especially, the spring breaks have always been kind of misaligned. They've never been the same week. And this year especially, there's like every week in March is a spring break. Like, first week of March was Sumter. This week is Lake. Next week, I think, is Marion. Then the week after is Villages. It's like every single week is a spring break. And so I thought, well, let's just try meeting on spring break week for Lake County and see what happens. Because every week is going to be someone's spring break in March. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And the program was good, very good actually. I was really proud of what we put forth, but it was the lowest attendance since I've been here on a Wednesday night. So it doesn't matter, like spring break week, holiday week, week in August. It doesn't matter. Like, of all the Wednesdays I've been here and we've had student ministry, that was the lowest attendance ever by a long shot. So, thoughts? You were there. You preached to high schoolers. Thoughts on meeting last night during spring break week?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. And I know, like, our set, we've talked about our setup before. We've got our lounge upstairs, and we got our loft on the 2nd floor, and people play outside. And so I don't always think during the group time that there's not that many people there. But then we went in, and I was looking around. I was like, okay, I wouldn't say it wasn't worth meeting, but I was surprised that it was.
It was close.
I was surprised at how low the numbers were, and just because, unless like that many people are out of town or something, like I assumed middle of the week in the evening, like people would still be around and come to youth group. But I agree. The program, I think, was still well put on. You and I put some work into learning about Esther, and I was preaching at the same time, so I didn't listen in on yours, but I think we both gave a pretty good kind of brief recap leading up to our passage, because we started our series.
Well, I'll just sorry to interrupt you. I was really pleased with what happened, because I was gone for the conference very spontaneously, which is not like me, but you put a lot of work into writing the sermon outline and sending me resources that you used to write the outline. And honestly, day of yesterday, I was asking you questions about Esther. I'm like, what about who wrote it? And how old was Esther? I was like asking you a lot of questions. Like, I was very proud of that culture that we've created among ourselves of just sermon prep, and how, like, I preached your outline last night with no tweaks. I added a few things, like a few slides at the beginning, but like I preached your outline and felt great about it because it's an outline that I would have written myself. Like I think we're very, very much on the same page about how we preach in student ministry. So I think that if nothing else was pretty cool to watch. So
I was glad to be able to do that. We were going to have a preaching meeting, but you were going to be in West Palm. And so I got to just listen to some sermons and read some commentaries. And sometimes I feel like I try to go to too many sources, but it worked out here. And I'm loving the book of Esther. I'm learning a lot about it.
Yes.
But we're doing a 3-week series on a book with 10 chapters, and we started out with the last few verses in chapter 4. And so one of my favorite parts was just learning about kind of the history leading up to where they were at the time that Esther was recorded, and then recapping the first few chapters to get really to the context that we were in our verses. And so I had a good time just kind of storytelling about some crazy names, Ahasuerus and Vashti and Haman. I definitely fumbled a little bit at late night. I got there, and as I was saying their names, I kind of was psyching myself out. I'm like, am I saying, like, Ahasuerus? If you're not thinking about that name, you're like, wait, is it, what is it again?
Worcestershire sauce?
Syllables, but I think it was great.
I enjoyed, likewise, like I'm enjoying Esther more than I hate to say more than I expected, but I just, because it's the Bible, but you know what I mean? Like I felt unprepared. I've never preached Esther before, and so, but digging into it, I'm enjoying it a lot, and I felt good about the message. I'm looking forward to rewatching it, actually, and watch some game film and see how I really feel about it, but felt good in the moment about preaching it. It was funny, I like, there was fewer people in the room than ever before, but I felt like I preached really big. What I mean by that is like very exaggerated. Like, I don't know. I felt like I was trying to compensate for, like, I'm interested to watch and see if it came across that way, but like the content was good, but I feel like the delivery, I was trying to like compensate for like, all right, there's fewer people in the room, so I'm going to be even bigger. Like, it was, and I didn't like do it intentionally. Just halfway through, I like thought to myself, I'm like, why am I being so like dramatic? Like, I don't know. It's probably just, we'll see what happens when I watch it. But anyways, on the strategy of meeting over spring break, I think in future years, I would still like to meet. Like you made the comment, it was almost not worth meeting. It almost wasn't, but I think it still was because, like I think it's like we've talked about this with our summer strategy before. Like I think people get upset when they're like, "You're not having Wednesday nights over the summer." And like, no, not traditionally, but we're gonna do other stuff. Like we're still gonna. Because here's the thing, like over the summer, your attendance is basically like what we had last night. Like the first summer I was here, we did have traditional Wednesday nights over the summer, and we saw numbers close to what we had last night. Mm-hmm. Still not as bad, but close. And so second summer I was here last year, I was like, we're not doing that. Like that feels terrible. Like there's hardly anybody there. But hardly anybody there for a traditional midweek. But if you take those numbers and you go to someone's house, it feels packed. Yeah. And so like, it's very much chairology, if you will, but like it's very much like take, these are not our numbers, but let's say if you're normally running 100 students and you have 30, well, 30 is a lot, but it doesn't feel like a lot when you normally have 100, Mm. But if you take those 30 and you go to someone's house, it feels like a ton of people. And so I think what I would do is I would still meet during spring break week next year. I would just do something different. I would go to someone's house, or I'd go to a different room on campus, or I'd go down to the gym, or I'd go into, or I'd have do it conference style and have 3 breakouts that the kids can choose from. Just totally rewrite the program and go to a different space so that it doesn't feel empty, because it's a lot of kids. Like last night, what we had is more than 90% of youth groups in the nation. Yeah. I just pulled that stat out of thin air, but probably. It's just compared to what we normally have, it was not a lot, and it felt flat. And so I think it's still worth gathering because they're real people, and it is a lot of people. If you just take the number by itself in a vacuum, it is a lot of people. We just need to go to a different space and change the program, because we ran the exact same program in the exact same space that we would run for a typical Wednesday night, and that's why it felt weird. And so like I would just take all those people, go somewhere else, do something different, and still do something on spring break week. Just don't do what we did last night. So that's my like knee-jerk analysis of it, but we'll see what happens next year, because also like kids in preschool did not meet last night. So like if they meet, I think that changes things. Yeah. One, because there's fewer spaces available on campus. So like if they're not meeting, we can go down and use the gym and their space or whatever and change the space, change the program. But if they're meeting, that's no longer an option. But also if they're meeting, that probably means more families are here than were last night. So we'll kind of take it year by year. But I think moving forward, I think I would like to still meet on spring break week. Probably just basically treat it like a summer Wednesday night is what we need to do, and like expect terrible attendance relative to a traditional Wednesday night, but still, real people looking to be discipled. Let's do something different with them. So
late night was par for course, I guess. It was a similar attendance in terms of percentage, I guess. We had probably around or a little over half of what we normally have, which was still, a year ago, we would have killed for those numbers. And so it's been cool to see our ministries grow to a point to where what we used to average is like, man, that's less than we have now.
That's true.
But it was kind of, I guess it was kind of funny. One of the students was there at late night, and we kind of started a little bit later because I knew one guy was coming late, and I wanted people to be there when we started. But this girl was sitting there looking at the room, and she's like, man, this is the saddest group I've ever seen here.
What?
And I just counted. I said, they look pretty happy to me. What are you talking about? Like,
oh, man.
But she was just thinking like, wow, there's like nobody here. Right. But I'm like,
that's my point. But it's just because she's used to that room full with more people. But like, take them to Steak and Shake, because it's spring break week, and do a Devo there, and you have a table full of whatever you guys had last night. It's like, man, there's so many people at Steak and Shake with us. It's all just like it's very spatial. Like it's very spatial, and so that's why I think spaces matter so much. And anyways, but like you said, like that, the numbers last night we would have killed for a year ago. So I think we're fine. We're fine.
One last thing I'll say, just a slight pet peeve. That I don't ever feel like actually.
Oh, I have a lot of pet peeves.
That's true. Well, actually, I'm going to say two things now. I was thinking about one of your pet peeves because I guess I didn't hydrate a lot yesterday, and I could feel my throat getting really dry when I was preaching late night. And this is on video too. So
you asked for water?
No, I didn't. Oh, okay. But I was like, as I was reading scripture, once I was blasting through the context of Esther up into our point. And then when I got to the point where I was reading the text, I kept coughing and my throat was so dry. And like I was thinking, I really wish like Carrie could like bring me water. But I was like, that's, some people do that. So it's not like I'm going to get fired if I do that.
No.
But I was thinking like that's one of your pet peeves. And that makes sense. Like that's kind of cheesy to have to be like, hey, can someone bring me some water while I'm preaching right here?
Well, last night I still don't know where it is. It's probably up there somewhere. But I grabbed a water bottle and put it, like I intentionally, like proactively was like, all right, I feel like my throat's going to be dry tonight. I'm going to leave a water bottle up there next to my Bible so that when it is, I can just grab it, take a sip, put it down. It's like not a distraction because I'm like begging for it from somebody. And then I'm like, I get up there and I'm like, where is it? Ah, dang it. And I don't know where it is. I still don't know. I don't know if someone threw it away or what.
Dang, I should have looked for it because I was on the same platform I don't know. You were preaching late night.
But then like halfway through the message, I was like, okay, here we go. And I was like coughing a little bit and I was like, whatever. So I just powered through. But yeah, I felt that last night too. So,
but the pet peeve that maybe is less of a pet peeve than that. It's just the people attending. Maybe it happens even more when there's lower numbers, but there were two people, my wife and another female leader, were on my left side preaching, and everybody else was on the right side.
Yeah.
And
I just call it out. It's funny
when I call it out to be funny, but I'm never like, hey, you six, come over here, balance it out. But it just sometimes it's happening at late night too. Just everybody decides to pick one side of the room.
I call it out to make a move. Like, you do what you're comfortable with. But like last night, again, there were so few people at student ministry. And so I was like, all right, welcome to student ministry tonight. So glad you guys are here. And hey, let's do a little exercise to get the blood flowing. Everyone stand up. And everyone stands up. I'm like, all right, if you're in the first 4 rows, you can sit back down. If you're not in the first 4 rows, you need to get up here and get in the first 4 rows. And like I made a move because I was like, this just feels weird.
Right.
And so, but I will say one of my pet peeves is like, one of my 1,000 pet peeves is like never ever from the stage, like during a welcome, during a sermon or whatever, say like, oh man, there's no one here tonight, but I'm glad you guys are here. I know it's this really small crowd tonight, or like, I don't know where everybody is. Like, never point out how small the crowd, even if it is the smallest crowd in our history, which it was, don't say it because they may not notice it or feel it. And honestly, they don't care. Like, they're here to have a good time and praise God and hang out with their friends. And like, that's stuff that like we notice and matters to us, but like, don't say it from the stage. Like,
right.
Like even in the big room, we don't really do this here, but like in the big room, like whenever someone's like, oh, there's nobody here, but glad you guys are here. I need you to sing a little louder to compensate for, like we don't do that. Like our guys don't do that, but like I've heard it before. I'm like, just driving me crazy. Because then people are looking around like, oh, there isn't anybody. You're right. Anyways. All right. Well, hey, we'll try not to wait another month before we podcast again. But it might be
more than 12 a year.
Yeah, I can't guarantee it, but we'll try. We'll give it our best shot. So, but I need to run to a meeting. So, and we covered everything anyways. So, this is good, man. Really glad to be back on air. And this has been another episode of the Effective Student Ministry Podcast. This is Garrett.
This is Mitch.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Later.